Dr. Ben Carson already making a splash as the head of the Housing and Urban Development. The HUD secretary touring an Ohio project recently and saying things that shouldn't be too cozy or people will choose to remain dependent upon Uncle Sam. So Dom decided he'd visit a project for himself and speak with local housing advocates to get their take on both what the secretary had to say and separate some rhetoric from reality. Dom?
Richard, we went to the Boston-Secor Houses in the Bronx. There, residents have an earful for Dr. Carson.
People need to have a place to live, a decent place to live, okay? A clean place to live. And I feel Dr. Carson is wrong.
Welcome to Boston-Secor Houses in the Bronx on Bavonia Avenue, just off busy Boston Road. Last month, 19 alleged gang members were arrested here on charges ranging from murder to extortion and drug trafficking. Emma Miller has been the Tenant Association president for the last 16 years.
Shooting in the park, shooting outside. These people come from other places to do the shooting. Shooting is not here. I also had a son shot here too.
Emma Miller is also the resident watch supervisor, and she went on to tell us how not just one son, but her second son was also shot in the Boston-Secor Houses. Each son lived.
None of us is rich or we wouldn't be here. And if you're poor, you're getting public assistance, however you maintaining your services, you have to have somewhere to live, you know? And public housing is supposed to be low income, but since they took the cap off, it's not low no more.
Describe life here at this housing project, Boston-Secor.
Okay, I look at Boston-Secor as one of the best projects in the Bronx. I will say that. But if you look at other projects, you know, we're not going to say no specific names, it's horrible. I mean, it's really bad. It's really, really bad. These are not Trump towers at all, but these are better over a lot of other projects, I will say.
We walked in with resident Indy Marie.
Elevators are constantly breaking down here.
On this day, the elevators were working.
We do have a lot of issues, come on, such as the elevators not working properly. You know, a lot of people have to reach out to maintenance over and over again to get the job done.
After riding the elevator up, we arrived on her floor.
Hi. So this is the 14th floor. This is my apartment. Don't y'all judge me.
Tenant Indy Marie showed us her 3-bedroom apartment, the bedroom her 2 daughters share, and the bedroom for her son. This is nice for the kids.
Yeah, I try to keep it as good as I can for the kids. I'm a little embarrassed I didn't totally clean up my house, but I'm a hard-working mother. I'm only 29 years old, 3 children, but every weekend, without the parents' help, unless they feel like donating or whatever, every weekend, there's about 8 girls in this house. They spend the whole weekend with my girls. And we do girl empowerment, how to stay friends. We dance, we teach each other dances, we do little model things. We take that whole hallway and turn it into a whole model thing.
With your 3 kids, you were once actually homeless.
I was sleeping in the car with my children for about 2 weeks, and I had a job. I just didn't have no stable place, and I went to PATH for help, and they didn't want to help me. It found me ineligible about 8 times before I actually got placed and was found eligible and was able to, you know, and then the journey to actually get housing for me to get here, I'm truly blessed that they put me in Secor, because I could have ended up in one of the really horrible, you know, NYCHA residencies that are out here in the city. But these are one of the best, probably the best in the Bronx, and I'm truly blessed to have been placed here. But it was a journey. It was almost a 3-year journey.
Bronx City Councilman Andy King has 5 housing projects in his district.
I think Dr. Carson is walking a fine line of being compassionate, insensitive, sensitive, and ideology of the Republican Party.
Councilman, I want to go ahead and put this up on the screen for people at home. Dr. Carson explained that there are people that are sick or mentally ill that society must take care of. And then he added, quote, "There is another group of people who are able-bodied individuals, and I think we do these people a great disservice when we simply maintain them.
America has a funny way of looking after its citizens and then sometimes not looking after their citizens and have policies in place to hurt a lot of citizens. So when I hear a phrase like this from Ben Carson, it just falls in line from the beginning of the Republic here in America. Now, as far as those who he refers to making them dependent, you know, because you haven't offered them any opportunity to empower themselves.
Do you think that people that live in the projects want to stay in the projects forever?
No. No.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Because if I had the chance to move and get something better, I'm looking at a picket fence in the backyard and stuff, I would go, yes.
I'm speaking for myself. I'm speaking for several people I've been around. No, this will not say, okay, yeah, I'm young, I want to stay here forever. No, absolutely not. When you get to a certain step in your life and you want better, you do better to get better. So, and those are the steps I took, and those are the steps I see other people are taking. No one feels like, okay, I want to walk up 10 flights of steps when the elevators are out of order. And so no, that's not an ideal thing. No one wants to walk up with a disabled child with braces on their legs and the elevators is not working. No, I'm pretty sure they'd rather just walk until they're home.
But taxpayers are covering part of this.
I'm a taxpayer myself. And helping someone is nothing wrong with it. Now, I'm not saying this should be a long-term goal. No.
Ms. Shamika Patrick, okay, turn around, let me see your jacket. It says NYCHA Tenant Patrol. Okay, what do you make of what Dr. Carson had to say?
I feel like, you know, him saying that people is feeling cozy, it's not feeling cozy. People just live here it's because it's affordable for them, and, you know, it's not cozy for no one. You know what I'm saying? No one wants to live here forever.
Touring housing for the poor in Ohio, Dr. Carson nodded, plainly happy, as officials explained they had stacked dozens of bunk beds inside a homeless shelter and on purpose did not provide televisions.
I take it another step further. You know, you're sending the message that you want to send, whether you want to make them uncomfortable, or you say this is a temporary situation, or I don't value your life. And also me as a HUD secretary, you know, maybe this is not where I should be if I can't find the real heartfelt compassion as I was as a surgeon operating and saving lives. You're in a position to save lives. Use your position to save lives. However, you empower people, create a living environment that makes people feel good about themselves, then they can step out and say, hey, this is where I've been, this is where I want to go because you've shown me a path.
You know, Dom, this isn't a theoretical story for you. You're a product of the projects yourself.
I am. Patterson Projects and Throughout Houses.
When you heard the housing secretary's comments, and for those who missed it, one of the headlines was he said, you know, why I like this. 17 folks in a room, take away the TVs, and that'll incentivize them to get out. And take it back to you growing up, what was your reaction?
Well, I don't take it personal. Been there, done that. In terms of, Dr. Carson is not the first person to say this. Perhaps he's the first African American to say it in these terms. This has been a talking point of right politicians for years. Rudy Giuliani used the same language. In terms of the key phrase here is able-bodied adults. Politicians agree, seniors, women with children, they have to be taken care of, but able-bodied adults, young ladies, young men, that you shouldn't make it too cozy for them because they'll want to stay there forever. I have to tell you, Richard, 2 quick points here. When we arrived at the Secor Houses, there were about 15 big bags of garbage in front of each building. And presto, within an hour of us being on premise, all of those garbage bags near each building was gone. Every person we talked to in this piece told us that if they had the choice, they would not be living in the projects in New York City. And I think it's fair to say that anybody that seriously looks at this issue does not want to be there long term. People would rather have a home, or I'm not saying the government should pay for this, not by any means. But, and another thing they said about Dr. Carson, I think it hurt a lot of them with him being an African American. Tenant after tenant said it's one thing for him to think something, but to articulate it like that is something else. And that some things are best left unsaid.
Do you have a feeling if he lived there for a month, he'd change his tune?
Well, Dr. Carson started out poor, I believe in Detroit. Would he change his tunes? It's tough because I had never heard of this housing project. And it seemed pretty nice when I got there. The first question I had, to be honest with you, something that happens in the projects, every city across America, don't ask me why, there's urine in the elevators if they're working. There was no urine in these elevators. So I'm sure Dr. Carson, to be fair to him, the brain surgeon would not live there. But these are good people. This is what I'm trying. That's the other thing they said, Richard. It's not the buildings, it's the people that cause some of the problems. These are hardworking people that I spoke to. And that lady, frankly, put me in my place when she reminded me that she's a taxpayer as well. So it was interesting.
It is interesting. Thank you. And when we come back, we're going to come back to an earlier discussion point, which is about the messaging when it comes to the White House. Coming up next, we're Shift Gears. SNL, they had a lot of fun at Sean Spicer's expense and his employers. But what's happening behind the scenes? No laughing matter for the press secretary.